So we will go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of Pacific Grove Unified School District Board of Education. And today is July 30th at 6:32 p.m. Could I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Crandall?
Here.
Trustee Dawson?
Here.
Trustee Paff?
Here.
Trustee Swanson?
Here.
Trustee Walton? Superintendent Porras?
Here.
Assistant Superintendent Shin Ben-Dib. I see you.
She's here. Okay, great. Dr. Porras, I don't believe there's any change to the agenda, but is there?
No, Madam President, the agenda stands as posted.
Okay. Could I get a motion, board, to approve the agenda?
So
Make a
moved.
motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay. Motion by John Paff, seconded by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall?
Aye.
Trustee Dawson?
Aye.
Trustee Paff?
Aye.
Trustee Swanson?
Aye.
Trustee Walton? Thank you.
That passes 4-0. Okay, we only have one item to discuss tonight, and that is the plan for distance learning, and specifically tonight is the elementary school, Robert Down in Forest Grove. So Tuesday, I know there was a good turnout. I at one point counted over 300 people.
Yes.
So that's great. And the principals did a joint presentation with slides and answered several questions for about an hour and a half. So was very appreciative that they did that. So tonight we're going to allow questions as well, if there's anything that hasn't been answered. But tonight, in case you weren't at the town hall, or there's maybe some changes that we want to hear about, I'm going to ask Principal Rogaman and Keller if they would like to share their screen and go ahead with the presentation. But before you do that, we didn't do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Very good.
I almost got it without forgetting something.
Oh, you did. You just circled around.
So we're going to pause the principals for a second. And Mr. Jonathan, if you could, Mejia, if you could please give us the flag. I will lead that off. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Okay, now we'll go back to the principals and ask for that presentation of the elementary plan for distance learning.
Well, good evening, members of the board. I am Buck Rogaman. I'm the principal of Forest Grove. And Mr. Keller?
I'm Sean Keller. I am the proud principal at Robert Down Elementary School for any parents or guardians that have not met myself just yet. And
the board,
go ahead. Sorry, Buck.
Members of the board and members of the public, we thank you for giving us this opportunity to present the distance learning plan for the elementary schools. As President Crandall mentioned, we had an excellent meeting on Tuesday night. We started the meeting at about 5:30 and it ended at 8. And we had the opportunity to field a number of questions from our families after making the presentation, of which you'll see a brief version here. I also would like to thank the trustees. We really appreciate the fact that all of you attended the town hall. So you heard the same feedback from parents and the same questions. And hopefully a lot of the information that we shared on Tuesday night is still fresh in your minds as we go over that slideshow again this evening. So if I could ask Director Mejia to please share the slides from the previous night. That was our welcome slide. You see for Freddie the Falcon and Mr. Keller, is that Ollie the Otter?
Ollie the Otter.
Perfect. If we can go to the next one, please. So what we discussed on Tuesday night was we talked a little bit about the timeline of our decision making. And then we talked about the priorities and objectives that we focused on when we were building the distance learning plan. And then we went over grade by grade the elementary schedules, starting with the TK and kindergarten schedule going all the way through the 5th grade. And we'll take a glance at those again this evening. We talked a little bit about our distance learning etiquette. And then we also had our counselors speak about the mental health action plan that we have in place for our K-5 students. And then we had a chance for questions and feedback. So we'll do a brief version of that presentation. So if we can go to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the timeline.
So the timeline that we shared the other night went through the process, which we've taken so far. And we started off in May with meeting separately, briefly, at Robert Down and Forest Grove with some parent advisories for our reopening plan. And we soon realized we needed to come together and make sure that we were on the same page. So not soon after that, we determined that we needed to focus on 7 areas for distance learning or blended learning. And obviously those 2 were the 2 main focuses at the time, and also mental health or social emotional learning, the disinfecting of campus if we were to return with a blended learning model, our food service program, our before and after school recreation program or BASRP, SPED and intervention programs. We also discussed during that time how we were going to train teachers with a free opportunity through the University of Phoenix Virtual Teaching Academy, and a few more than 30 PGUSD elementary staff attended that session. And we then provided a hybrid plan overview, which was for the blended learning or 50-50, which for the parents that are new and did not get a chance to see that or to attend our town hall the other night. The 50-50 means that 50% of students would be on campus while the other 50% would be at home. And that plan at this time, if we were to return, would mean that students would all be at home on Monday, and then group A would be on campus Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and group B would be on campus on Thursdays and Fridays. And lastly, we came together last week. Both elementary schools did something that has never been done in the history of Pacific Grove Unified, and we aligned per grade level with curriculum and meetings. So those are the schedules you'll see tonight. Go ahead and advance, Mr. Mejia.
So what you see here are the distance learning priorities and objectives. One of the things at our parent ed advisory meetings, and really from the time that we slipped into distance learning last March, was we really wanted to focus on that social emotional aspect of the program, and nothing is changing in that regard, that we really want to make sure that we're taking care of the social emotional needs of our students. So as we were planning the schedules throughout, we were keeping an eye and our minds focused on weaving these social emotional supports and strategies throughout our planning. Number 2, we talked about the academic growth in supportive learning loss. We understand that students may have fallen behind in the last couple months of the school year last year. So we put together a plan to assess where students are now, and also bought some supplementary software that can help us specifically direct instruction in the gaps in learning that students show us. And then number 3, we talked about student engagement. If students are going to come to the distance learning, and if the distance learning is going to be effective, not only does the teaching have to be a high quality, but we also need to make it fun for our students. One of the things that was nice about the parent ed advisory meetings that we had early on is that we had a chance to develop and talk about the different objectives that we had for building a distance learning program at our school. And it was these objectives that helped shape the planning that went on last week. So we started off Monday and we went through pacing guides so that we could align K through 5 what content was going to be taught on what days throughout the district. So if you're a second grader at Robert Now, or if you're a second grader at Forest Grove, the 4th week of school, you're going to be studying the same content no matter what school that you are in. We were really excited about this work to get that aligned. And that's one of the reasons why the planning days are going to be so important for our teachers, so that we can keep on meeting with our wonderful colleagues at Robert Down, sharing our ideas, talking about what's working and what isn't working, so that we are able to stay on pace with each other and keep this program aligned throughout the school year. We worked on the math in the morning, the English language arts in the afternoon. On Tuesday, what we did was we took a look at the supplementary applications that we purchased. One of them is called iExcel. Another one is called Seesaw. These are the applications that we're going to use in support of the curriculum that we use. The reading program that we use for grades K through 2 is called Super Kids, and the reading program that we use for grades 3 through 5 is called Benchmark Advanced. Our teams in the afternoon took a look at some of the upgrades to the online offerings that both of those programs have. And in the morning, we took a look at the online upgrades that our SWAN math program has as well. So that's what Tuesday looked like. On Wednesday, when we did our planning, we looked at a blueprint for daily instruction. And that's going to be those schedules that you'll take a look at in just a moment. What we tried to do was draw on the training that we received at the Virtual Teaching Academy with the University of Phoenix, as well as the research that our educational professionals, our teachers, have done to find out what is the best recommended practice for building a distance learning schedule. We drew on that information to build the schedules that you will see in just a moment. In the afternoon, what we did was take a look at a weekly blueprint for instruction. So that is one thing that is going to be consistent throughout our grade levels, is that there is going to be a weekly plan that has the assignments outlined for the entire week, so that parents are going to be aware of not only where the instruction is on a given day, but also where that instruction is heading. On Thursday, we took a look at assessment. We know that we need to find out where our students are currently. And so what we talked about was the initial assessments that we could give our students to, identify things like what their reading fluency is in the younger grades, and also focus on what their reading comprehension is in some of the upper grades. And then we can identify where students are with regard to where a typical grade level student is at the beginning of the year. All of our teachers are accustomed to teaching some students that are above the grade level standard at the start of the year, and teaching students that are below the grade level standard at the beginning of the year. But this year we are anticipating that there might be a few more students that have fallen behind, and the sooner we know where those gaps are, the sooner we can work to fill them. In the afternoon, we started to look at the ongoing assessments that we would use, meaning those unit tests that are embedded into the curriculum that we have adopted. Okay, and then on Friday, what we did was we started to look at the best way for teachers to give feedback to the students, as well as starting to look at some of our class-wide and school-wide social emotional support programs that would be effective. And so that's really, the objectives that we use throughout our planning, and those are the objectives that we developed in May and shared with our parent and advisory groups as we went through this process. Next slide.
So we're now going to share our elementary schedules, and both Mr. Rogerman and I received lots of emails with suggestions and concerns. And again, we would like to emphasize to parents and guardians and the board that these are subject to change, that not all teachers were on contract. We paid extra for this training and for the teachers to come together to do this. And not every single elementary teacher participated. So they will all be working together next week to look at these and to go over, and modifications definitely will be done and will be shared. So I just wanted to share that before we go on to kindergarten. Go ahead, Mr. Mejia. And Mr. Rogan, are you going to share kindergarten?
Sure. One of the things when you look at these layouts, the different colors are significant because they represent different kinds of instruction. If you look at the bottom left, you will see kind of a key that tells you what the different colors represent. So the light green is going to be the synchronous or live instruction, and that live instruction may be whole group, it may be small group, and at times it might be a teacher working with an individual student if that is needed. The color that's kind of a light orange is our asynchronous instruction. That is either instruction that is recorded, or these are going to be activities that students can do independently where they will not need an adult or a teacher present to help or assist them with this. So this is the kind of instruction where they might be using the app iExcel in order to do some targeted practice on skills in either math or English language arts that they're trying to shore up. Or this might be workbook assignments that students have, some of the typical pencil and paper work that typically accompanies the adopted curriculum that we have. You will see in blue that we've identified an opportunity for teacher office hours. This is where you can get a little bit of advice from a teacher if your child is struggling with a certain concept, or if there's something that you don't understand about the lesson, where the teacher has an opportunity to explain those kinds of things to our families. And then what you'll also see are the food and screen breaks. One of the things that we're very conscious of as we built this schedule was we wanted to make sure that it wasn't all just screen-based, because we understand the importance in child development of stepping away from the screen, getting your chance to run and play, as well as doing the other kind of learning activities that involve the manipulatives and kind of that hands-on approach to learning that is really critical in transitional kindergarten through 5th grade. One other note, as you're looking at the kindergarten schedule, is that this also is the transitional kindergarten schedule. So we'll make an adjustment to that header so that people understand that this is also going to be the same schedule for the transitional kindergarten. You see the week laid out, that Monday is the planning day for our teachers. When we met, we asked parents to kind of weigh in on what our TK through 5th grade teacher preference is, and that would be to move that planning day from Monday to Friday. It is also important for us to align with the other schools in our district, and right now the other schools have Monday as that planning and preparation day. Although I did want to share with the board that we did receive several messages where parents mentioned that they would support that move from Monday to Friday. And I would say that the number of responses that we got was around 6 to 8 of our parents that weighed in on that. So you can take a look at the weekly schedule. Monday is the one that would be mostly a planning day. There is a live meeting to check in and kind of give guidance for those Monday activities that our students would be doing. And then you see the schedule laid out for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. One of the things you'll notice is the bulk of the English language arts and the math occurs in the morning in all of these schedules, whereas some of our pullouts or our classes like PE, music, and those kinds of activities tend to be in the afternoon. In kindergarten, they all come before noon because that is when we intend to have the end of the instructional day. The requirement that we have in terms of minutes is 180 minutes for the kindergarten. For 1st through 3rd grade, the requirement is 230 minutes. And for 4th grade through 12th grade, the requirement is 240 minutes. Mr. Keller, you can take over for 1st grade.
All right, thank you. Go ahead and advance, Mr. Mejia. So parents and guardians, you'll see that there's a pattern here. And I don't want to take all the time that's been used so far to explain every single color. But one thing that we will have to look at with a concern that at least one parent brought up to me is our lunch break currently. It does not match with the middle school. And that's obvious to us at this point. We definitely will need to reach out to our friends at the middle school to see how we can adjust this. Right now we have an hour, and unfortunately the middle school schedule is slightly off about a half an hour. And there's some concern about siblings walking each other to eat. At this point, our 2 locations for meal distribution are Arkwright Court and at the high school. And I clearly understand that, and we will definitely be addressing this next week with our staffs and also with the middle school for them to discuss with their staff to see how we can adjust at our 2 levels. But as you can see, Monday again is a check-in with the Monday morning meeting, and those occur every single day of the week. One thing we didn't discuss during the town hall that parents showed concern about, especially with the flexibility. One thing we didn't discuss is the mandate from the state in our distance learning format that we have to have live or synchronous minutes every single day. That is a demand from the state. And whether Mr. Rogeman or Dr. Porras wants to address that a little further later on with any additional questions, I just want to share that with the parents that had concerns over flexibility. But you'll see with every single grade level here on out, there are a few things that we'll need to tweak, but that in the morning there is a little snack or screen break roughly around 10 o'clock. We're going to try to do that for every single grade level to make sure that teachers have time to take attendance and get that into our Illuminate system. And that you'll see that ELA or English Language Arts and math are primarily done before lunch, and that after lunch you'll see some specials, which are at the elementary level, music, PE, possible rotations with digital learning, possibly library time, or 5th grade music that will go on throughout the week. So let's go ahead and go on to 2nd grade.
Board members, one of the things that you're going to notice is that although the schedules are similar, you're not going to see that the grade levels are the exact same. And I think that that reflects, you know, the grade level work that was done in these planning sessions, that each grade level has a good idea of what kind of synchronous and asynchronous time is needed in order for them to adequately teach the content, which is why you'll see a little bit of variance from grade level to grade level. One thing that they all have in common is that currently Monday is that prep day. That includes a morning meeting in order to describe the events of the day, and Tuesday through Friday follow similar schedules where there's much more synchronous interaction with our teachers. I'll give you a moment to look at that. You see that small group and independent check-ins is part of the 2nd grade schedule. I think we can move on to the 3rd grade.
Thank you, Mr. Mejia. So again, you'll continue to see the trend of morning meetings in every single day. And again, the trend of English Language Arts instruction in the morning, along with math. And for, again, any new families that are with us, our math program is called SWUN Math, S-W-U-N. And for primary grades, our ELA or English Language Arts program is called Super Kids. And here in 3rd grade, our English Language Arts program is called Benchmark. And you'll notice that throughout the intermediate grades, or the 3rd through 5th grades, there'll be somewhat a combination of not only benchmark, but also novel studies throughout the year. So in 3rd grade, you'll also start to see a trend where teachers will like to have a choice kind of midday, and that's right before that second lunch or screen break from 12 to 1. And again, you'll consistently see teacher office hours. And we will fix this slide, and I'm sorry that we didn't fix it before tonight, but those office hours will last from 1 to 2 for 3rd grade. And again, you see a lot of the specials being worked on in 3rd grade in the afternoon. Okay, we can go on to 4th grade.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. There have been a couple of adjustments to the 4th grade distance learning plan that indicate that some of the defined times could be either synchronous or asynchronous throughout the day. But once again, you'll see that the bulk of that math and English language arts instruction occurs in the morning on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. There's time for office hours and drop-ins. They built some flexibility into the schedule from 11:30 to 12. It says teacher's choice in SEL. Those would be the kind of team building activities and that co-community building that our team has identified as a major factor in our distance learning program. One item to add on the 2nd grade schedule, Mr. Mejia, can you go back 2 slides just really quickly? The office hours for the 2nd grade are incorporated into some of the asynchronous activity times. So even though it's not marked off as blue for office hours, the 2nd grade teachers are aware that they need to have office hours, and those will occur during some of those asynchronous times. Mr. Keller, if you'd like to talk about the 5th grade.
Thank you, Mr. Royman. We can go ahead and advance to that slide, Mr. Mejia. And one more. Thank you so much. So again, you see the morning meeting. Oh, one more back. Thank you, Mr. Mejia. You'll see the meetings are occurring again in the morning because we want to have those check-ins every single day. Sorry, Mr. Mejia. Back to the 5th grade. All right, thank you so much. And much like most of the other grades in the intermediate, something we haven't pointed out tonight, but we did mention at the town hall, at this current time, our primary grades have 135 synchronous minutes per day, and our intermediate grades at this time have 165 synchronous or live minutes per day. Excuse me. You'll see again just slight little changes between each grade level, but again you'll see that math and English language arts are primarily before lunch, and you can see the novel studies and kind of a mixture of history. Mystery science is our adopted science program at this point. We wanted to stick with mystery science, which has some great interactive videos for kids. We wanted to stick with that for this year before we adopted another program. And you can see the drop-in office hours, not only to help students, but also to help support parents. And that's pretty consistent between 1 and 2. We can advance, Mr. Mejia.
Great. One of the other things that we talked about with our parents is that we want our students to build into their day a routine for distance learning. So we think it's a healthy thing for our students to get up and get dressed just like they're going to school, and kind of get in that learning frame of mind when they sit down to their computer or to their tablet to get ready to engage with their classmates and go to school. So that's really what the etiquette for distance learning was about. And our teachers are going to take the time to spend with students to teach them how to wait their turn when they're in a Google meeting such as this. And then also to listen to their peers as they're talking. So a lot of those people skills that we typically spend a lot of time teaching our students face to face are also going to be part of the program that we're going to use with distance learning. The teachers are going to review these with their students just like they go over their classroom rules. Next slide.
So we wanted to inform all of our families that we take our students' social emotional learning and mental health seriously. We want to once again thank Zoe Roach and Sonda Fruden, who are our counselors at Forest Grove and Robert Down respectively, for creating this plan and making sure that not only our students, but our parents, excuse me, and our families are going to be supported during this extended period of distance learning. Mr. Mejia, we can go to the next slide.
So one of the things that's great about our schools is that we've both adopted the toolbox as a kind of a social emotional learning program. And so with Robert Down now going into their third year using the toolbox, and Forest Grove going into our second year, it has already established a common language for us. So I know that Mrs. Tobin has made a name for herself doing Toolbox Tuesday with the PE classes at Robert Down. And what's great is that those lessons are going to be available for our students now too. We've been using the mindful moment concept at lunchtime to talk about the toolbox, and Forest Grove will still have those videos available for the students as well as the parents. But even more than that, the counselors have lessons planned that are going to fit the pacing guide for how we teach the toolbox, so that both schools are going to be focusing on the same tool at the same time during the year. So we're hoping that our teachers and our parents and our families are going to be able to share ideas back and forth about how our students are using the tools, especially now that they can become so handy in helping to cope with the current situation that we're in. Some other things that you see are the student success lessons for distance learning, the teacher-led class meetings. One of the things that has been a great part of the toolbox are the caring circles, where students talk about something that they're grateful for, or also something that might be weighing heavily on their hearts. And it gives their classmates a chance to practice empathy and to really learn to identify with the other students that are in their class. We'll have K through true drop-in caring circles, 3 through 5 caring circles. And then the counselors are going to have video lessons. We're ready to go on character traits using the Mind Up curriculum, which is a mindful practice that we use at Forest Grove, and some of those other characteristics that you see under Tier 1. Tier 1 simply means support that can be applied school-wide. Next slide.
So for students who need just a little bit more support than all students, they'll be meeting in some smaller social groups to discuss their emotional awareness and try to help them with any kind of issues that are going on for them, causing stress and frustration through our distance learning. And both of our counselors will be checking in individually and having one-to-one sessions. And parents should know that both counselors will meet with you as well if needed. So please reach out. I know both counselors will have the choice for you to click in through our internet or our websites, but you also can reach out through email to both Sonda Fruden and to Zoe Roach. And for our new families, both Zoe and Sonda want to make sure that, especially during this time, that we're not coming together and having our annual picnic for new families that Sonda would host every year at Lovers Point, that we want to make sure that new families feel welcome to Pacific Grove. Go ahead to the next slide, Mr. Mejia.
So for the highest needs students, that we have the ability to refer them to outside services, and then to continue intervention online. What that really means is that ability to meet one-to-one with the student, pending parent permission, so that our counselors have that ability to still give that sort of intensive social emotional support to our students that require it and have the highest need. Next slide.
And as I mentioned, parents, we want to make sure that our new families feel supported. So there will be a new to the Peninsula parent group that both Zoe and Sonda will form. And I know I did receive a few concerns from newer parents, especially kinder parents, trying to reach out. And just know that there are some parents that don't use social media. So there are parents that would like to reach out. Again, if you're one of these parents, just contact one of the counselors or Mr. Rogaman or myself, and we'll definitely connect you with other families in your area. But we will also have a kindergarten family parent group. Both of our counselors talked about the other night, coffee with the counselor, where they'll have parent groups on a weekly basis, as it states there, at least for the first couple of months. And they will divide these groups into primarily primary from first to third grade. Primary is usually first to second, but they're going to group first through third, and for intermediate grades, fourth through fifth. And they'll also have some parent education Zoom workshops in conjunction with the adult school. And some of the topics will include home scheduling, anxiety, and our toolbox program. And once again, as I mentioned the other night, if you have any ideas or topics that you would like to be to be seen or to discuss during the year, please contact your counselor or Mr. Rogaman or myself. And of course, as I mentioned before, we will provide individual parent consultations through our counseling department. Go ahead, Mr. Mejia.
This is the point in the meeting where we took questions and feedback from the public. And so now, Superintendent Porras, I'd like to turn the meeting back over to President Crandall. And Mr. Keller and I are available to answer any questions that folks might have.
Great. Thank you both very much. I'm going to go ahead and just bring it back to the board and go through and see what questions we have. While we're doing that, if you want to raise your hand for a question, please do so, and you'll stay in the queue, first come, first serve. But we're not going to open that up yet, but you can raise your hand anytime. And to do that, you click in the middle of the screen, in the bottom middle, you're going to hover over participants and click that to be able to raise your hand. Okay, to the board, Christy, you're up
Yeah,
first.
I know parents had reached out to me a little bit about the later grades, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and the fact that it looks like most of the educational pieces are in the morning. But do you think that that's actually will be balanced out with some of the small group and other things? I just want to make sure that there's an equity with all the kids throughout the days.
Sure. I think that a lot of the intervention services and a lot of that more focused work are the kinds of things that would be done in an asynchronous fashion, and that would be available in the afternoon. As I look at the fifth grade schedule, one of the things that you see listed from 1 to 2 are things like one-to-one help and small groups, as well as parent co-communication. So that's exactly what you're talking about. Trustee Dawson, is that kind of a more intense attention, or that a small group. Also, what they do is they allot a little bit of time for students that might still be working on assignments that are held over from the morning. to be able to finish those up. When it says finish up daily activities and turn in assignments, that is also some room that is available for the students to continue the practice that they established in the morning. Fourth grade also did an update to their schedule that is currently available on the website, PGUSD.org. It just didn't make it to this slideshow because this is the same slideshow that we used on Tuesday. But in the afternoon, they've written in their asynchronous time, or that recorded time, that it's flexible enough for teachers to be able to do that kind of student support and that small group learning that both parents and teachers found very effective in the program that we ran in the spring.
Another thing that I know came up the other night that was so tough. I mean, obviously everybody's trying to balance this and their personal lives with work, and the parent that pointed out that she has to drop her child at the babysitter, and she's not going to be able to sit with her or him during the day and keep up. I just want to make sure there's a flexibility, like you just mentioned, Buck, is, you know, turning in the assignments at the end of the day after you've done that, which is obviously the ideal. But I want to make sure that we're taking care of those parents that have extenuating different circumstances where they have to work, that they don't come home and feel, oh, I'm already all behind and I haven't even been able to sit down with my kid, that there'll be some kind of fluidity and ability for them to get through the same things, just in different time sequences.
Yes.
Trustee Dawson, one of the things that's great about our staff is that they've got families too, a lot of them, and they have a very intense understanding of a lot of the topics that were brought up. And in the conversations that I've had with staff, there's going to be the opportunity for those recorded lessons. Some of that asynchronous instruction is going to be available at any time during the day. So the lessons from SWAN Math that are recorded, a parent will have the ability to access those at any time of the day if they need that in order to assist their child in the early evening or when they have the opportunity to be able to do that. Also, I think that our teachers have their eyes wide open, that there's going to have to be some flexibility built in as far as exactly when assignments get turned in. That some might be getting turned in a little later in the evening. Others might be getting turned in like right as they're being done in class. But right. I think our teachers understand the reality of distance learning, and that kind of flexibility can be built in. As far as the attendance taking, right now the plan is for students to check in at the beginning of the day so that we can account for their attendance that way. That is the current model that the district has.
Okay, thank you so much. I just think it's so important as we move forward to just try to, we cannot satisfy everybody's need on every level, but I sure appreciate that effort on the part of the teachers and the staff to try to service these different families and not have the learning loss that everybody is hearing about and dreading and hoping to absolutely overcome and keep moving forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Christy. John Path?
Thank you. I have a number of questions. Some of them I will direct directly to Dr. Porras, because I think he probably has a fast handle on a bunch of them. You've answered a couple of them in presentation. Thank you very much. Mr. Rogerman, Mr. Keller, one of the things about the afternoon sessions is there's a block which is defined for certain tasks, but it's not nearly as clear to me what certain things look like. You talked about PE, and what does science and art look like? And is that a program, or sorry, is that an elementary school wide program, or is that more grade level to grade level? And ignore the cat in the background, please.
Well, Mystery Science is offered at this time for every grade level.
Okay.
For the science piece. And you're not the only person to bring up science. Obviously, we'll have to really hone in next week to see how this really works. We really have to determine if we have enough materials and or manipulatives for kids to take home, Because again, we don't want it to be just for one grade level. We want to make sure that every single child from kinder through fifth can have access to materials. So we're going to have to make a tough decision next week with our teachers, how mystery science is going to look and how we're going to expand beyond that to truly make it hands-on.
Okay. And that is elementary wide. Go ahead.
Sorry, with regard to art, a lot of the art projects that are done are based on the grade levels and the teachers. So we don't have right now a formal K through 5 art program, but typically the art projects have been seasonal and they've been in support of the learning that's going on in the classrooms. We try to use the visual and performing arts to support the English and language arts as well as the math instruction that's going on inside the class. So for instance, a younger student, part of the art project might be learning about shapes, and then they use those shapes to make a tree and a house, right? There'll be art projects that are associated with the content that's being taught.
So Mr. Keller addressed a little of this too. One of the things about art and science, and actually PE to a lesser extent, is that there are items that we may end up sending home to various families, very specifically saying this will be for Wednesday's project. And while that's probably not going to start immediately, I hope we have worked out a way to get those manipulables and get those objects to you in a rational time frame. I appreciate you talked about character and those programs. Thank you very much. Homework in general. Are we looking at our policy? And again, I think early on this is less critical that we don't have to define this for day none, but very shortly in we have to understand what we can assign and what's a rational time. How's that looking?
Trustee Paff, when we had the discussion with our teachers, one of the things that we came to the realization is that we're going to be asking for 240 minutes of learning to happen at home. We think that's plenty of homework. So any of the work that's going to be done outside of the instructional day, it would be something that's fun and enjoyable and educational at the same time. If a parent wants to sit down with their child in their lap and read a book with them, that's fine as far as homework goes. But as far as the teaching and learning that is going to be responsible for the content and the grades that students are going to earn, that's all going to happen within the instructional day. We do not intend to assign homework.
Thank you for that explanation. Really appreciate that. Dr. Porras, I had a question on, Sean and Mr. Keller, Mr. Rogeman. Thank you for saying you're going to look at matching the middle school lunch. I know that was brought up the other day, and I know you said you do it. And I appreciate that you said we have the plan. We have the planning meeting set up. We don't have the plan yet, but we know we have to do it. So thank you for that explanation. Dr. Porras, the 180, 230, 240 minutes sounds light. Now 240 is down from 270. The 240 at the high school is down from 270. Are the other two ones similarly been reduced by the state as far as total minutes in a day?
Yes, Mr. Paff. Ed Code 43501, which is amended in SB 98, creates the minimum school day requirements. Okay. So those are set by the Ed Code for at least this school year. Again, 180 in kindergarten, 230 in grades 1 through 3 inclusive, 240 for 4 to 12 inclusive, and 180 for our continuation high school.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And actually, that answers two items. That is, and Buck, you already talked about mandates for live minutes every day. So we're good there. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate the additional input and answering my questions today.
Okay, we'll be coming back to John. So, okay, Brian, you're up.
Most items right now, I think, have been covered that I had questions about. I was wondering if there any additional details that could be offered as it relates to music in the 5th grade class, which was when we start instrumental music for a lot of those kids. Has that been touched upon yet?
So Miss Harubi sent us a tentative schedule, and it does look like our instrumental music lessons would happen in the afternoon time as well. It's going to be in that time that's after lunch. And she's been giving virtual lessons, I want to say, to about 4 students at a time. And I can't remember in the plan if she plans on doing them in a virtual format. I think that when we're in distance learning only mode, she does. But we do intend to have instrumental music program at both Forest Grove and Robert Down.
Great. It's a great comfort just to know that it's going to be happening in some way. And I know it's a tremendous challenge to do something like that in distance format, but I'm glad that it's happening because it's such a big, that's the foundation of a great music program that we've always had here in the district. So aside from that, no, I'm just going to listen to see what everybody else has to say and to see what you might need at both of the sites from the board for any kind of additional support, things that might be missing. So I'll just keep my ears tuned in for that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brian. John Walton, I saw you joined us. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
thanks, Debbie. Sorry I was late. I had
No worries.
another board meeting. Yeah, no, I caught the end of the presentation. Just I'm sure the thanks have already been given, but I appreciate Sean and Buck having the forum with the parents and listening to all the questions and hearing the concerns. I think, my reflection is, even though I'm not going to have a child in elementary school this year, for these parents, it's probably the most challenging because at that age, to expect young children to sit and look at a computer, stay focused, it is a huge expectation. And so the parents are going to have to be so involved. And I know that's a hardship for a lot of them, and I feel for them. So I just asked the staff, which I know they'll do, because I love the kids, but the administration to be flexible with the parents. And I know we're trying to set standards and things like that, but I think there's going to be a lot of unique situations that come up in the coming weeks and months that we're going to have to adapt to as a district as we work through this with our families. So, appreciate dialogue and the open-mindedness about work in the long run.
There's a little delay. Thanks, John. I don't know if there's a video problem or something. Okay, thank you. I had a couple questions before we open up to public comment. The break times in the morning, there might be a reason behind it. Maybe it's attention span, I don't know. The kindergarten and first grade have 15 minutes in the morning and all of the grades have 30.
I think if you look at the kindergarten schedule, their break also includes a PE session. So it's kind of piggybacked that we have a snack and screen break that starts at 10, and then there's going to be a PE lesson that is also part of that. So we're trying to get about 30 minutes of movement for our students and from that 10 to 10:30. So if you look at the instruction, it looks like it's going to stop at 10. And also in that asynchronous time from 9:15 to 10 for the kindergarten. If there's an asterisk, it says after 15 minutes of focused work, take a 5-minute break. So we're trying to get the little ones up to move around and squirm if they need to squirm, and then come back and do whatever is next. With our first grade schedule, that is a 15-minute break, and I think that was set at 15 minutes to match what we normally give for recess at our school. Normally there's about 5 minutes of snacking, and then the students get about 10 minutes to play. You'll also notice that at 10:45 on Tuesday, there is the group-wide live PE. PE is going to be kind of a combination of 2 different models. There's going to be a daily lesson that is going to be video based, where either Mr. Gray or Ms. Tobin and their teaching assistants are going to lead the kids in an instructional video, and then the students will do the activity with their parents, as well as have the opportunity to do something that is flexible, where if they want to go for a bike ride, they want to go for a jog along the beach, then they're able to do that, or just get out and play and log that activity that they do every day. And then what we also wanted was for the students to have the opportunity to interact in a live manner with our wonderful PE staff. You know, one of the things that we realize in our day-to-day lives is that our PE staff are some of those people that see every single student every day. And so our students get very attached to the PE staff. And so we wanted to make sure we scheduled in some live interaction. So once a week, the PE teachers will be able to make it to every single class live and have an instructional period too. So that's what that is going to look like.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I think it's, after Tuesday night, I kind of looked at it and picked it apart, and I not picked it apart like what's wrong with it type, but I think it's the timing is set really good throughout the day. So I think there's a good amount of breaks in between, and I like what you guys did. I'm very grateful for the counselors for what they've put together. I am curious about the timing for that, specifically for the students if they need some of those time slots. I'm guessing it's going to be after the school hour, or are they going to mix it in somehow like they do normally at school?
Well, Ms. Fruden stopped by to talk to me today, and she did ask if she can extend her hours into the evening in order to help families. And again, I'm completely fine with that. But I'm not sure what Ms. Roach is doing at the current time. So Mr. Rogerman, I'm not sure if they've worked that out.
Well, I think that one of the things to be aware of too, you know, board members, is that even though whenever you put something in a schedule and you have it all blocked out, it gives the appearance that everything is set and rigid and can't be moved. And that's just not the way an elementary school day works. It's just not. So if a counselor normally would pull a student when they were doing some independent practice, maybe in English language arts or math, then that might occur. Typically, you know, they might pull during something that was, you know, less foundational in terms of instruction. And so our counselors will work with the teachers and identify the best times to see a student or see a group of students. And the other thing our teachers do too is they have a good idea of who is going to be in their class when, and they can gauge their instruction accordingly too. One of the things that was really exciting about the planning process is that we have so many experienced and accomplished teachers building this plan, that all of those kinds of concepts and ideas were being discussed as they put this together. And so these teachers who have taught for years upon years and have been flexible enough for their kids to go to things like counseling or intervention or speech, they're going to work around those services just like they always have.
Great. Thank you. That is all the questions I had at this time. So I will go ahead and open up public comment. Again, you can go ahead and raise your hand in the middle of the screen. Just click participants. I think everybody probably knows by now. But just in case, our first speaker is Zoe Schultz.
Hi there, members of the board. Thank you for hosting this meeting. I attended the meeting that was hosted, I don't remember what night it was, a couple nights ago now. And I feel like really the work that both the teachers and the administrators have done thus far have brought us a long way in a very short amount of time. So I wanted to give my thanks. In listening to all the comments on Friday and some of the different suggestions that are being made on behalf of the teachers, especially with regards to this planning day, it seems like there is more coordination needed amongst the elementary schools, high school, and middle school for parents that have children in multiple schools. I do think, however, that a Friday planning day over a Monday planning day is much more effective in terms of the way the school week works out. I feel like Monday might feel like a wasted day if we're, as parents, kind of left to our own devices after a half-hour morning meeting. So I feel like that would be better served to have on a Friday. Received an email today from the district staff and was notified, I guess, that tablets were not going to be available, at least temporarily. I'm not sure if that's a permanent thing for the first grade students. Having experienced, doing this in the spring and using the Seesaw platform, which is fantastic, a touchscreen is really, really critical for teaching on Seesaw. It's nearly impossible with a Chromebook. I have a touchscreen on my home laptop, and even though we had borrowed a Chromebook from the district, didn't use it once because it was just completely ineffective. So for those parents that don't have a touchscreen, I think it will be a struggle for them to teach on the Seesaw platform. So I'd really encourage the purchase of laptops, tablets for the first graders as soon as possible. I stated in my comments the other day also that I think time set aside for teacher and parent connection is really important, and I want to make sure that that's a regular thing. As a parent, we're put in the role of teacher, and we don't have that toolbox. We don't have that education to teach our students, and I think it's really critical to learn those little tricks of the trade of how to teach a student how to read, things like that we just don't know as parents. So being able to connect and ask questions of the teacher is really vital as a parent. Two more quick things. Trustee Campbell, Crandall, sorry, excuse me.
Mhm.
I appreciated your comment about the 15-minute break being too short for young children in the morning. I agree. I think that maybe that should be extended to a 30-minute break for the younger students, including the first graders. And also like the idea that I heard that PE could be maybe more flexible, especially on the days when it's not live instruction, because I think getting out and riding a bike or doing something outside and having that flexibility is great for us parents and the students as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, Dr. Porras, did you want to address the tablet question? I know we're working on that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're still we've gotten the information that we need, and we've gotten the feedback that we need. So at this point, working pretty hard on that. I think we might be able to work towards a resolution pretty quickly. So appreciate the comments and certainly are on it.
Thank you. Your other comments are duly noted as well. I know the other principals are on as well. So as far as the coordination of the schools, I just don't know how that's going to be possible, but we'll see how the year starts out. Okay, and next up is Jamie Guthrie.
Hello, thank you for taking my questions and comments. And thank you to all of the teachers and the administration for pulling together to work this all out. So I have concerns and comments and questions. So I did attend I have an elementary school. I have a third grader, and then I also have a middle school, a sixth grader coming in. And in regards to the planning day, whether or not it is Monday or Friday, I really do request that it is consistent across the district. So that is one thing. And then I still have concerns regarding online construction at the elementary level. I do believe it does require a slightly different pedagogical approach, and I have concerns that only 30 teachers and parents at the elementary level went to the online instruction academy. So I'm uncertain as to the quality of remote instruction across all elementary grades. And then my questions I have, when will it be determined for the online instruction platform, whether it will be Google or Zoom? And then I also have a question about the moderation of the small breakout groups. How will those, each group be moderated? Will there be an instructor to moderate each group? And those are my main concerns and questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll try to address them all with help from staff there. Monday and Friday to be consistent, I agree. We will talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The quality of instruction, and Dr. Porras, if you want to add anything, but it's the quality of the teachers, and I have no doubt we have that, and I know that they're going to do a good job, and the curriculum director as well to support them. It's going to be an experience for everybody, but I have faith that they will supersede that expectation. I would recommend that you email the teacher though, if or the principal, if you have concerns after school starts and you're not feeling good about it. I would just ask that you email and communicate that. We'd rather know than not. The online platform, I know we talked about that last time, and we talked about considering Zoom, and I don't know if we have a decision on that or not. Dr. Porras, or do you want me to ask Mr. Mejia to weigh in on that?
I can start us off. But at this point, Google is our platform that we are working on, and we are awaiting some of the pretty major changes that they have promised they'll be making for schools that will give us a broader sort of palette of tools to use. If for whatever reason Google fails in that delivery, we'll be able to fall back to Zoom and make that work. We've had quite a bit of experience with both platforms, frankly, but the Google platform is going to allow us to make kind of the best alignment with the Google Classroom and other work that these teachers have been working on. I would just make one comment regarding the training. This isn't the only time over the years that we have had teachers become trainers of trainers and trainers of other teachers. We oftentimes will send small groups of teachers to a specific training and then to come back and help work with their colleagues to implement what they've learned. Obviously, the stakes are a bit higher in this situation, but we have an amazing professional teaching staff. They step up to the plate every single time. And I know that we'll be able to have those teachers that took the training work well with their colleagues and implement exactly what we need them to do. And they themselves will know where their weak spots are and seek out additional assistance. Our admin team works as a management team regularly. And so we also talk about what we're doing at the different grade levels so that we can achieve some alignment. And we make modifications and adjustments kind of to calibrate across the district as we go. Again, it's not perfect, but I think we have a pretty good pulse on what happens and are able to address those issues as we need to. If I may, Madam President, I see Director Silva's hand going up repeatedly. So may
Yes.
I unmute her?
Yes.
So that she can go ahead and go. All right, give me a second.
Thank you for adding that also.
Mm-hmm. I think you need to unmute yourself, Director Silva. Right?
Trying. It's
There
not.
you
Oh, there we go. Okay. Hello, Board of Directors and parents and staff and families. I just want to share that one of the things that we've built into the Mondays are professional development time for our teachers, especially collaboration and planning, but also professional development. I mean, we know, we did have a large number of teachers attend the virtual academy. And so we were very pleased with that, but it was the summer and not all teachers were required. I mean, it was one of those things where we asked folks who wanted to attend and we paid them to attend, but we can't require teachers to work outside of their contract if if they have otherwise engaged during the summer. But what I want to say is that I have every confidence in our teachers and in the time that we've allotted for them during these Mondays or the Fridays, whatever day is decided, for our teachers to receive professional development at least 4 hours a month. So we will be monitoring, and teachers are very open to saying, you know, I need some more support in this area, as well as we have our tech team ready to support our teachers and as well as our administrative team. So I have every confidence in our teaching staff that we're going to rise to the occasion and provide the best educational experience for our students.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's one more item there, maybe Mr. Rogerman or Keller, about the moderation for the small groups. I think you touched on that a little bit, but
Right, I'd love to talk about the small groups, President Crandall. One of the things is that an adult will always be present in the small group in instruction that takes place. Sometimes that instruction is going to be done by the classroom teacher. Sometimes it'll be done by one of the instructional aides at our school. But there's going to be an adult present when we're doing the small group instruction. When that group is doing the small group instruction, any students that are not in that group are likely to be involved in some form of asynchronous activity. I think the best way to describe this are those teachers that take a centers-based approach to their instruction, where what they'll do is they'll set up 3 or 4 different learning centers in their classroom. Each one of those centers will be timed at about 15 minutes. So students might be practicing sentence writing. Then in another station, students might be online doing an English language arts activity. And then another station will be a small station with a teacher. That this kind of approach is common in our classes. And the whole idea is that students learn best when they're engaged and they're doing something. And so that's what allows the teacher to meet with students in a small group while the other students are working. So we'll establish that practice, but it will be supervised at all times when we're doing small group. One other quick comment: to have more than 30 adults that are working at the 2 schools attend what was a 5-day training in the middle of the summer is actually a very high and impressive turnout. In these kinds of voluntary conferences, typically we would get maybe 4 to 6 people that would volunteer to go to a conference. Even within the work year, an impressive turnout would be to get 20 to 25 total with both our schools. So I think that our teachers identified that this was a need. And to be honest with you, I'm very proud of the number that turned out for it. And I'm really impressed with our staff. And I'm very grateful to those who went. And I have no doubt that they'll be able to share their training with their colleagues, especially in these 5 days that we have coming up.
Yes, and I'd just like to add that, again, we will have that collaboration day. Currently, it is on a Monday. And that collaboration among grade levels and between our schools will continue throughout the year. So our professional teachers will be sharing best practices, not just with themselves, but also with the instructional assistants and our paras in our special education program.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Carolyn Swanson.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carolyn Swanson. I have a child at Forest Grove. I feel like right now, teachers, staff, and families, we're still in crisis mode, possibly more now than we all were in March when all this happened. My comments tonight are hopefully based in, well, I hope they'll be heard and maybe implemented to try to help reduce the stress on the parent side, because I feel like tonight's meeting is really for you to hear the parent side of input on these schedules, since the teachers and admin have produced them. And so right now, the families that, almost all the families I know are either facing a parent who's going to need to quit their job to school their child, not as a teacher, because we're not teachers, but more as a teacher's aide, or families who are forced to try to hire somebody to help with all this. So one thing I've been doing is looking around at other districts that are also in our county and in our state too, obviously, because I know that there's so many rules and regulations that you all have to follow to try to make these schedules, make teachers happy, make families happy, and follow the law. And so I felt like if I looked at other districts, because I'm not a school administrator, maybe those other districts would have some ideas that we haven't worked on yet that could be implemented. And so what I was seeing as a common thread is that the other districts are doing distance learning more like in a clump for the having to log in and be synced up with the teacher at a time. And so then that kind of, speaking as a family, that would allow us to get that over with for the day and then take a break that we're in control of and then go back to the assignments, the asynchronous part. And so I hope that you can hear me and possibly discuss adopting something like that. I also noticed regarding flexibility, one of the districts said, flexibility, we want our DL to be easily deployed at any time for any amount of time. So I really appreciated the President Crandall when you mentioned, or sorry, Trustee Dawson, when she mentioned the mom who called in, who starts out her day by dropping off her child at childcare and then having to work. And I know that Principal Rogaman kind of addressed that there could be like some flexibility in that, but I want to ask how attendance will be taken for a family who, in that circumstance. I didn't hear an answer for that. Also, I know that these programs need to be robust. It was almost a bad word after I heard it so many times in all the things I was reading. But to me, that does mean that the flexibility for needs to be inherent in these programs for families to be able to individualize the distance learning day to allow for work, childcare, siblings, all these things that are kind of going on, potentially distracting us. And then I do appreciate the flexibility in PE. I will say, as a parent who has tried to do distance physical therapy with my child, having any type of physical activity come through your laptop, for me, turned into me chasing my child around with the laptop so she could see what was going on, so the practitioner could see what was happening with her. Then we went outside. It was too sunny to watch the laptop, and we were just so sick of trying to get that screen time. So I hope that PE will be very flexible, and we'll kind of keep an eye on that as it goes, because it can be a source of frustration, and I would hate that. And then lastly, this question is for the counselors. So I hear you guys saying that if we need anything to let you know. And one thing that I could use right now is to hear from you how we can sell distance learning to our kids for this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Let's see. Mr. Rogerman or Keller, would you mind addressing the attendance question?
Well,
Sure.
in asynchronous manner, if we have that flexibility built in, and I'm sure, again, we need to address this with our staff next week, and I know we will be having an attendance meeting as a district with our attendance clerks. I'm sure we can work out something where families, by turning in assignments, proves that they've attended and that they've worked on the assignments. And that's pretty much the most important piece in a distance learning environment. Again, we do have to have a time within our Illuminate program to submit attendance every day. And I don't know what Mr. Rogerman would like to add.
Well, and that's kind of what I was going to talk about, Mr. Keller, is that we have been working on, the POP policy as far as attendance goes. And we wanted to make it flexible enough so that if someone wasn't there right at 8:45, they weren't going to be marked absent, that we could create a flexible window for about 45 minutes in the morning. But I think that the time that we have chosen is 10 a.m. as the time that the absence calls that you typically would receive would go out to our families with a late check-in time cap at 9:45. I believe that's what we had established in the document that we worked on. So that's the current standard that we have for taking attendance at that live check-in period. What we haven't built in is the opportunity for someone not to check in the morning and then have asynchronous work or a record of that work on that day count as attending the class. Superintendent Porras, if I'm off base on that, please let me know.
Nope, you're on base, and I think attendance, in fact, we heard today from the state superintendent of public instruction that they are working on some potential flexibility with attendance and attendance taking. None of that has come our way yet. It's very unofficial, but clearly they're hearing statewide that there's concerns with that in terms of how it can be addressed. At this point, however, we are directed to continue taking attendance and making sure that we're monitoring that in order to abide by the timeframes that we've been given. So if there's any changes and adjustments, we will make that announcement as soon as we can.
Thank you. Now, as far as the counseling question and selling the distance learning to the students, I think I would ask the counselors if they're on and if they have a quick answer. Otherwise, I would say that, I mean, it's individual, and I would recommend you emailing the counselors directly to whichever is at your normal site. But no pressure if I don't know if the counselors are on or not. But
and we can certainly, I think that I think Ms. Swanson also passed along some great information regarding a way to help us provide some more handbook kind of reference points for teachers and for parents as well. That was very valuable for us. So we will certainly let the counselors know that part of it. We're trying to put together some parent education videos or snippets and some other support work for them. And this would be certainly something I think we could put together and ask the counselors to talk about.
Great. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to also add, President Crandall,
Yes.
Mr. Rogman and I, with help of Forest Grove and Robert Down parents, created a video that will be coming out. I don't want to ruin, the buildup at all, but we are hoping that will jazz students. I apologize beforehand for my acting skills, but we tried to make it fun, and it will be pretty professional, and it was a request from our PTAs to make this video. It won't be the last, and we definitely will want to reach out to students and try to get them to be as comfortable as they can throughout this time. And sorry, I had another thought, but I just lost it, so I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Mr. Keller, one of the things that we've stressed with our staff too is that it's going to be really important to have as many kind of fun activities for our students to do as possible. And the more fun that we can make the distance learning, I think the more engaged and the more excited that our students are going to be to return to the classroom. So I think that one of the greatest things that could come from us working as a district across the grade levels is that if one teacher in one grade level has a good idea for something that worked with their students and made it fun, we're going to be able to share that across the district for every teacher in that grade level. And we hope those fun ideas spread.
Yes, thank you.
Trustee Crandall, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
I just noticed that we have Sonda Fruden with her hand raised.
Yeah, I was just going to introduce her.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries. Go ahead, Sonda.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Carolyn, for that great question. Zoe and I actually texted each other, great question, right afterwards, and we'll be on it in terms of coming up with a plan to, possibly have a training or a public speaker come or something that might address that issue. And it's a personal one for me as well. The last 2 weeks of distant learning with my daughter were incredibly challenging, and I was racking my brain about how to keep her engaged and on the screen. And I know that's the same experience for so many of our parents. And I have one, I can't imagine those of you that have more than one. So I thank you for that question, and I want to ensure you that we will be talking about it and brainstorming and coming up with some ideas. And that's exactly what we are looking for from our parents. So thank you.
Thank you, Sonda and Zoe. Okay, next up is Elliot pretending to be Lucy. Go ahead, Elliot.
Sorry about that. I'm using my wife's computer again, so
It's okay.
is the name. But gets to my second point. I wanted to follow on one of Carolyn's quickly, the attendance policies. I realize there's more to come, but is there still going to be the same sort of tardy policies? How about unexcused absences? We normally would turn in doctor's notes at the school. Is there going to be an online portal for that? Or is this some of this, if it's still to come, that's fine. The second point is just how, what are the plans to deal with disruptive kids? And I'll say in some ways I'm more concerned about my own than others, but on these Zooms, I mean, are they going to get kicked out of a Zoom room or out of a Google Meet? Or how do we, especially when parents are working, how is that managed in a digital platform?
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Keller.
Well, again, we basically are being told by the state we are back to compulsory education. That's why we do have to take attendance moving forward, and we are not in so much the hold harmless mode that we were in the spring. I'll just say, and I know Mr. Rogman and I have already spoken, and I'm sure we'll, be aligned throughout the district as principals and as vice principals in trying to deal with attendance issues, that we're going to have a grace period at the beginning of the year. We definitely want families to adjust. It's going to be rough. It's always rough coming back from summer regardless, but we understand we are human beings and we get it. And we don't want to be too harsh, and that we're going to do our best to be as gentle and to remind gently that you're needed as a student and as a family to participate. I just promise I will not do it in a harsh manner. If I have to show up to your home, I will. And if I have to have a face-to-face, physically distanced, safe conversation with your child, I will. But it will not be in a harsh tone. It will be in a very comforting, manner, and I'll be more than likely reaching out to our counselors to help out with any kind of situations that we're facing with children not participating in our program.
And as far as, I think Mr. Rogerman touched on it before, that the 9:45 is going to be considered the tardy, and then 10 a.m. would be the attendance that will be checked in.
Trustee Crandall, one of the things I want to mention too is we're not really marking people tardy.
Okay.
So we will be doing the absent chart, but the reality of the situation is that as far as marking people tardy, it's just not a very practical thing. Of course, we want everyone to be on time to begin the instructional day at 8:45. That's why you'll see on some of the schedules at 8:30, they talk about students trying to log into Google Classroom and log into the Google Meet and be ready to learn. Yet at the same time, we understand that people with two or three children might not be able to get everybody logged on with their headphones and attentive right at 8:45 on the dot. So there's going to be a lot of leeway, in terms of being tardy. Yet we still want our children present for the instruction that goes on, and we understand that it's going to be a challenge. Elliot, the other thing that I would echo that Mr. Keller said is that as far as a disruptive student goes, our goal in any kind of disciplinary action that we take is always educational in nature. And so it's more than likely that what the consequence will be us sitting down and having a conversation and doing our best to reason with a child that is disruptive, and kind of explain the impact that their behavior is having on others around them. And I think that when you can make a child aware of the impact that they have on the other children that are around them, then that child starts to go from just sort of a self view to more of a community view. And they can start to understand what their role is in that group to make that group function well. Of course, I'm not going to talk to the child like that. They're not going to understand a thing I'm saying, but we'll make it a little bit more understandable for our children. And really, it's strange. It's one of the things that I miss the most. You know, you think as an administrator that it's a burden to have kind of the disciplinary conversations that you have to have with students, but I really miss that. I do. And so I'll actually be looking forward to making a home visit or two just so I can get some interaction with the children in a personal way too.
Thank you.
I'll just say to the community, one thing that we've continued at Robert Down to keep up Jen Hinton's legacy is to ask students when they are acting out in a negative way, to simply ask them 3 questions. And that is your behavior kind? Is your behavior safe? And is your behavior your personal best? And I promise that those are the questions I'll be asking your children if they're not acting appropriate.
Right. And as far as the unexcused absence, I'll ask Dr. Porras to correct me if I am incorrect, but I believe there's leeway on that, but there still will be unexcused absences because we are required to do certain amount of instructional minutes, and students are required by law to go to school. So that's another reason why attendance will be done. And the unexcused absences, am I correct, Dr. Porras, that there's a little, because I think we had a 14-day policy before?
The policies that have been in place for attendance and tardies and truancies countywide are still in place. Those haven't been waived. I think since the term flexibility has been used a lot this evening, I mean, we're attempting to be as flexible as possible, at least for the first month, to just give everyone a chance to get settled in and moving forward. And the probably the most critical part of the attendance taking piece is to help us identify which students are not engaging in distance learning so that we can figure out what's going on, talk with the parents, and get a little bit of intervention going so we can help bring the child in or help find out what it is we can do to support the family. So that's the bigger piece. But yes, there are other truancy mediation pieces that are still in play. And so to that end, we still need to continue.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up is Jeannie Treyback.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to start with saying thank you again, principals, administrators. You guys have been doing such fantastic work. I've been watching these meetings and participating in this process since late May, maybe mid-May. Can't quite remember May anymore. And I just know that you've been working a lot, and I really appreciate all the hard work that you're doing, even 3 board meetings in a row, week after week. I know this is probably longer than you wanted it to go. All that being said, I have one quick comment, and that's just, I know that we mentioned this in the parent task force meeting, but the SWAN videos are pretty unhelpful to be watching. I hope that's not a training tool that the teachers are going to be relying on. I have a our upcoming 1st grader and 4th grader at Robert Down, and we watched a fair amount of those SWAN videos, and they were, let me just say, not as helpful and as instructional as one would hope. Often I'd have to explain the concept to my child in a way that made sense to her. So that feels like the easiest piece, just a little note about that. And then this feels like a bigger piece of just acknowledging that school is no longer normal. It is not going to be normal. We just need to name that elephant in the room. I feel like we keep talking about these schedules, these plans, these hope, these dreams. I feel like our country feels this way, our city, we all want to go back to normal, but we are not going back to normal. We are going back to this weird world that's been infected with COVID, and we're all trying to do our best to survive, to love our families, to love the people in our life well. And I feel like the plan that is on the table for tonight puts so much on the teachers to work individually with the 20 to 24 students in their class to come up with plans that will work with their childcare needs, will work with their work schedules, that will work with with parents who have helpfulness in them, with parents who don't have any helpfulness with the IT stuff. And I just think they are already struggling with a lot. I can't even imagine, most of them have families of their own, as you guys all know, and to have a lot of these problems not solved in a way that makes sense, particularly the childcare piece or the flexibility piece, feels really troubling to me as a parent and as a member of our community, which I feel like is really strong, especially at Robert Down. And so I just would like, again, to acknowledge I've sent emails even since May about this possibility of there being an independent learning flexibility plan where we use the pacing guides that are already being created by the teachers, so that we as parents can choose what is best for our family. We have no options. The charter schools can no longer accept homeschool parents that want to make that choice. The governor has put the total stop to that option. So we either choose to distance learn or we choose to figure out homeschool on our own, which I think will work for some families. They can afford to hire a pod teacher or something else. But I feel like our district is small. We have the savings. I've listened to the lovely budget meetings. We have some of the savings. I think now is the time that we try and adapt to the times, because I think this will have a lasting impact on education. And if we can adapt and incorporate an independent learning flexible study model now, it will benefit our system long term, not just for this particular COVID season that will last who knows exactly how long, but hopefully it will help students in the future with have creative options that they need to learn. So I sent you all an email. I know that you probably, I hope you've even read it, but I just wanted to go on public record again, saying like, let's come up with a plan that helps our teachers not to have to answer all these questions themselves, and let's give parents the tools that they need to try and do this as best as we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeannie. There's no direct questions, but the comments have been taken. Thank you.
President
Jamie?
Crandall, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
The SWAN videos will be different than what they were in the spring. I think that Director Silva might be able to give a better description of some of the upgrades that have been made to SWAN. So I don't know if she's still available.
Just unmuted her. You should be able to unmute yourself, Ani.
Okay, so I am so happy to say to everyone that SWAN videos have now taken upon, I mean, they are aware of the distance learning component, that parents need support. So what they have done is they have created the whole lesson that a teacher would be giving to the parents and the students with a cartoon figure. I mean, from the beginning of the opening of the lesson, the problem of the day, all the way through to the guided practice, to the closure. The videos last about, anyway, depending upon the grade level, anywhere from 12 to 17 minutes. So the teacher is going to be able to decide, can I present the video, or I mean, meaning, can I present myself in the instruction, or can I also present the video for the parents to watch at a later date? So what I want to say is that I think you're going to be very pleased with the new instructional videos that SWAN has created. They're right on the cutting edge of math instruction, which is why we went with this program. And I think you're going to be very happy. We also have an ebook that is going to be, that we're using in the beta form to facilitate the learning for the kids. And so, I mean, there's just a lot of good things coming, and we're working on the back end, as is SWAN, to offer that for the parents, because we know the parents need the support. And so I just want to point that out, that we're working on that, and that SWAN is doing their job. So.
Thank you, Ani.
Thank you.
Okay, Jamie Guthrie, I don't know if your hand's still up or you had another question. Go ahead. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm sorry. Me again. had actually asked for a timeline regarding when a platform would be determined for Google or Zoom. And so I just wanted, is it going to be August 11th, the day before instruction begins? Or
you wanted a timeline as to when you're going to know?
yes.
Yeah. So Dr.
And-
Porras confirmed that it's going to be Google for now.
Right, but it's dependent upon whether or not they rise to the occasion. So they've promised the, additional, they promised certain things, but we don't know if they will fulfill their promise. So I want to know what their deadline is to fulfill their promise. And then I appreciate that we do have a wonderful set of teachers who are very experienced in in-person teaching, classroom teaching. I want to reiterate that online instruction is a very different paradigm. And so I just want to make sure that we emphasize this difference. And I know our teachers will rise to the occasion. I have full confidence in that. At the same time, I want to make sure that there's all the support that is necessary for our teachers to succeed in teaching our children.
Of course. Thank you. The online platform, I think that we're going to expect that to work. And if it doesn't, we will provide what we need to provide. But we're going to be, it's worked so far. That's what the Google platform has been what we use. And so it's going to be a little bit more, of course, but because it's all online. But we're just going to hope that they come through, and we'll figure it out if they don't. Dr. Porras, is that accurate statement?
Yes.
Thank you. Tony H.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tony Huang. I'm a parent of a incoming first grader and a 3-year-old. I'm just wondering if there are continuing or if there are any plans in place right now for what happens when in-person learning in some form restarts again, specifically in regards to BASRA, the before and after school program, and probably the resources that are needed really to get that program up in place to help support us parents. Thank you very much.
So your question is more about when we go back to a hybrid model or back to full.
Yes. So I know we're all focused on distance learning right now, but at some point in time, I'm hoping we get more closer to normal than we are now.
Yeah.
And rather than the plan maybe 2 weeks before that happens, is that planning going on now? So we can, get up to speed sooner rather than later.
Of course. Yeah. So I'll ask Dr. Porras as always, to correct me if I'm wrong. We do have a plan for the hybrid. That's where we were going. So we have something already in place to use. We also will have enough notice, I hope, from the state, because we know we have to be clear for 14 days. So we're going to be checking that daily. I'm fairly certain, I know I will be, to know when we're going to be able to start moving on something. And the board is going to have to approve anything that we do. So if we have to have special meetings, we will, but I do believe and trust that we will have plenty of notice to the families when that happens. that correct, Dr. Porras?
Yes, the hybrid model plans were the first plans that actually we brought forward for approval by the board. And the reopening, the academic reopening plan and the operational reopening plans were all built way back, gosh, a long time now.
Way back
But,
in June.
And then when we had to flip suddenly, then we focused on the distance learning. Those plans are still there. They're all on the website on the reopening
So I was
menu.
going to ask you.
You can look at those plans anytime you like. And obviously the hybrid and blended model plans are sort of in a hiatus, and we'll certainly revisit those, but they are very good structural foundations for going into those modes if we need to.
Thank you. And for the BASRP direct question, that is on that plan. I remember seeing that. So Tony, if you go on the website, you can look up those plans that we had originally approved.
Madam President, we have a we've been working on an FAQ, and it was supposed to go out today, but it was difficult landing a translator to get it translated appropriately into Spanish, and so we hope to have it out tomorrow. But there's a lot of links that are listed there as well that people can look at. It might be a little easier to reference. So hopefully we'll have that out tomorrow.
Okay, great, thank you. Next up is Kelly San Filippo.
Thank you. I don't need a definite answer now, but just something that just popped into my mind from another parent's question. Given that we're going to be using the Google platform, will students be expected to join their classrooms prior to the first day of school? And if so, when will that information come out? I'm assuming maybe late next week, possibly. And if they're going to have multiple classrooms to join, so they'll have, say, their fourth grade classroom, and then I think, the counselor had a classroom last year, and then the music and the PE had a classroom last year. Obviously, the older kids can kind of toggle back and forth a little bit easier between managing that. How will that look for the younger students, or will it just be one classroom that they join, and then within the classroom they'll have different, I think they can set up different folders depending on which teachers have joined the classroom. So just curious about that.
Okay. Thank you. And I know you said you don't need an answer right now, but Mr. Rogeman and Keller, do we know about how that's going to look for the younger students?
One of the important things when we're trying to design things like a meet and greet for our families and for our parents is that we want to have a discussion with our teachers about the best time for them to be able to do this. So yes, we do intend to have a period where the families are going to get a chance to log in and meet their teachers and have a meet and greet, similar to what we would do in, in years past. We would have them come that day before school to meet their teacher. We haven't decided on the day that it's going to happen yet. As soon as we do decide, then we'll get that message out to families, and families can expect their teachers to reach out to them with the necessary links to come to that first meeting. It's going to be the teacher that makes the first contact with our families to establish that meet and greet. President Crandall, I was talking and I forgot the second part of the question. I'm sorry.
I think you answered it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Mr. Rogerman answered it. I just, that was just a random question that popped into my mind.
Kelly, anything else that you have?
We joined the district in January, so I don't know how the beginning of the school year looks for Forest Grove.
Right.
So, and this is all new. So,
well, one of the things that we can say is that we are getting our class lists to our teachers by tomorrow. I think that Mr. Keller is a little bit ahead of me on that one. And then the class lists are going to go out to the families next week. And that's another thing where we need to just do one more check with the teachers to see the day that they're most comfortable releasing the class list to our parents. It is not going to be the day before school starts. It is going to be before the weekend next week, so that you'll have a little bit more notice than maybe you've had in the past as far as who your teacher is going to be. That will also be basically a posting of the class list so that you can also see the other students that will be in the class, because I know that there are some families that want to work together to try to attend to the schooling of the children.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great. Okay,
Debbie?
thank you. Yes.
To either Mr. Rogeman or Mr. Keller, I think the second half of that question was akin to, you know, in a normal day, you would go from one classroom to another. At Forest Grove, you'd go over to E-Wing for art or music. And part of that question was, once logged in the morning, that child does not have to log in anywhere again. Is that a correct statement?
One of the things that we've done too is that we've encouraged our staff to set up common Google Classrooms, in that if you're looking for an English language arts assignment in first grade, you would find it in the same spot if you have a child that's also in third. Okay, so we're trying to set up common Google Classrooms for parents to use so they could navigate their way around it. And yes, we want to put links to the different classrooms where students may have to go in a common homepage for those students. So you don't have to navigate multiple classrooms, but you'll have a common touch point to get to those other classrooms. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you very much.
Right.
Thanks, John. Okay, it is 8:22. I'm going to not necessarily cut off public comment, but I am going to stop at 8:30 and bring it back to the board and see where we're at that point. Except for two questions in the queue, and then we're going to bring it back to the board. And so, Angela, you are up next.
Hi, thank you. I just had a really quick question about, normally before the school year starts, we have a classroom supply list. So I'm just curious if we'll have a in-home classroom supply list that we'll need for our elementary students. Thank you very much.
Great question.
I think we touched on that a little bit, but Mr. Rogeman and Keller, is that going to also come out with the class list potentially?
I've been referring people to the supply list that we have online. We can certainly attach that link. And so those supplies that you would normally purchase for the classroom, those would also be appropriate at home. The other thing that we're going to do is have a materials distribution day at our school. You might recall, if you're a Forest Grove parent, that on the last day of school, we had people come and pick up the materials from the classroom. We're going to do a similar distribution event at our school. Again, we need all our teachers back to be able to choose the day, because that is going to take some work on the part of our teachers to assemble the materials that students need so that we can do that distribution. So we can look forward to that. It's going to happen. We just haven't locked in the dates yet, because I don't feel comfortable as a principal putting out a date if our staff isn't going to be ready.
Yeah, thank you. So I hope that answers your question a little bit, Angela. Keep looking for that. Jennifer McNary.
Hi, good evening. I'm a parent of an incoming second grader and third grader at Forest Grove. And I know the teachers start their training next week on Monday. I'm just wondering, you know, as parents, we're going to begin our teaching on the 12th as well in that regard, but what kind of training or resources will be available for us as parents, and when can we expect to see those? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. Actually, I worked with Andrew Bradley, who is our digital learning teacher, just yesterday. And we were planning to send out some invitations tomorrow. He will be working with parents in the next 2 weeks. Our first session will be next Thursday. And, well, actually, I take it back. It's going to be the 6th. So yes, that's next Thursday. Sorry, all the days are jumbling together. From 6 to 7. And then he's going to work with parents on Tuesday the 11th as well. And that'll be from 6 to 7. and he wants to provide just navigation of our new websites, basic navigation through Google Suite, which will include Google Classroom, probably introduce our Seesaw platform to parents. And again, I don't want to go into too much of the weeds, but we will be having some invitations that will be sent out tomorrow. So please check your email or your texts.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Keller. Okay, next up is Manuel?
It's actually Manal. Thank you.
Manal. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to explain for us everything that's gonna happen. It's quite a ride here for all of us. My question is gonna be actually all the questions that I had in mind. You guys answered it. My question gonna be about lunch time. And is the school going to be distributing lunch like what happened during March, April, and May and June? Or how is it going to be? What are the expectations from the parents? Or do you need us to drive the kids to school? Or how is it going to look like for the lunch meal? Thank you.
From
Well,
what go ahead, Mr. Keller.
Sorry. Again, I mentioned earlier that the two locations at this time are going to be Arkwright Court and the high school. We did have a distribution center at Robert Down, but that's to be determined if we're going to add that during the year, according to Director Lipp. And we will be asking, according to Director Lipp, for parents to provide the lunch code. So that'll be really important for us to provide to families. And we'll make sure to get those lunch codes out to families, but just to verify. So it will not be like it was in the spring where anyone could come up and say, I do have a son or daughter that's under the age of 18 or 18 and under. We will be requiring the lunch codes at that time when you come to pick up any meals.
Thank you. Okay, this is,
Debbie?
yes.
Before you go on with that, I'd like to just ask Sean or Buck, following up, if I have my child who wants to buy a lunch, is that still a possibility, or is that in advance, or is that out of the question?
Director Lipp would be a good one to answer that one.
Stephanie, Director Lipp is raising her hand. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Stephanie Lipp, Nutrition Director. We're going to ask parents to prepay their accounts with Easy School Pay, which is an online website that you can use a credit card to put payment in. And in terms of pre-ordering or anything, you don't have to pre-order. We're going to kind of forecast an amount of meals to make, and I'll be sending out information about more on everything next week. And yes, right now we are planning to do Arkwright Court and the Pacific Grove High School, and it is going to be similar to in March when we served outdoors with a walk-up table as well as a drive-by spot. The difference is that we can only serve enrolled PGUSD students, and it'll be according to their free, reduced, and paid rate. And to see if you are eligible for free and reduced meals, you can fill out a meal application, and that's tied into the registration and can also be found on the website. Did I kind of touch on everything?
You did. Thank you very much.
We'll also be serving Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So on Wednesday, you would be picking up meals for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Easy Pay still have that usurious fee structure?
It does still have a fee on it. I mean, if you don't do that, I'm not sure if we're setting up little drop-off boxes at the DO or locked boxes so that parents can drop those off or maybe drop them off at the
Okay, we're far astray from where the beginning of the question. So thank you so very much. If I have something further, I'll email you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Lip. Okay, this is the last question before I bring it back to the board. Carolyn Swanson.
Good evening, everyone. Again, Carolyn Swanson. I have a food service question as well. Okay, I've got 3 small food service questions. So does it include breakfast like it did last year? Is there, can you enlighten me or us on why we reduced from 3 to 2 pickup locations? If it was lack of use, I am thinking about that area down on Lighthouse, down near the cemetery, where there are lots of not congregate living, but apartments and things like that. And I wonder, oh, near the adult school, actually. So perhaps if we could consider that as a pickup site, once you enlighten me on the reasoning behind it. And then also, I remember at a board meeting, we talked about pricing of lunches. And I think there's a difference between middle and high school lunches and elementary lunches. I'm curious if it's probably not efficient, I would imagine now, to do different kinds of lunches. So what's the price for lunch if you pay full price? Thank you.
Director Lip, are you able to help with those questions? Here you go.
Okay, sorry, having an unmute game over here. So the reason why we dropped it down to Pacific Grove High School and Arkwright Court is because I'm thinking that our counts are going to drop because we're not able to serve anyone aged 18 and under for free now. So I'm just planning on, the reality that our participation is going to be lower. And there have been talk about that specific location you were talking about by the adult school and by that preschool, I think. And if there is a need to do that, then that's something that we would look into doing. And the prices, they are according to the school sites right now. And I don't know, that's something that I could talk to Song about because it is going to be essentially the same food, and the food that we are serving is to the guidelines of a high school student, pretty much. And it does include breakfast in with the lunch.
Thank you, Director Lip. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the board for further discussion and a vote or direction. Or if you would allow me, I'm going to be a little wordy tonight. This has all been very troubling to all of us, and I've put myself in young parents' position, as I worked full time and I had two young ones, 3 years apart, and I was juggling, and so I know how it is, and I can't even imagine right now how that's working for anybody. The thing is, though, I mean, we are all in this together, and it's unfortunate, but we just can't do everything for everybody, but we're going to certainly try, and we're certainly trying now. And I also just kind of wanted to put, this is maybe our last meeting before the start of school. I just wanted to put into perspective at a high level what has gone on since April, actually March, but timeline and all the work that everybody's been putting into this. And I probably don't have to tell you this, but I just kind of want to put it in perspective just so we can all hear this together. So back in March and April, when all this started, Dr. Porras was meeting with his administration every day. He was on calls with the districts, the county, the state, almost daily as well, and giving the board all the information as he's getting it. So, and things were changing, as we all know, daily, hourly. It was crazy. by the time May and June came along, they advised that we have to have a plan in place, right? We don't know what we're going to do, but you have to have a plan in place. So the administration got together and they did that, and they put together a very robust hybrid plan for the best that we could possibly come up with at the time, for everybody, to all grade levels. And we've talked about that and we voted on it and the whole thing. And then around June 26th, the county health department tells us that we don't have to have the plan approved by them anymore. So we're kind of basically on our own. So not knowing what the regulations are, not knowing what's going to be tomorrow, not knowing what the guidance is, the administration still put together this plan and felt that that was the best plan for our students. And then we were told on July 17th, nope, you're not doing any of that. You're going to do straight distance learning. And I mean, that's what you're going to do for now. So the next day, everybody's turned around and now they're making another plan that is full distance learning for all grade levels at a very short time frame. And that is a major job for anybody. And I think they all did a fabulous job. And, you know, our task is to provide education, which includes the social and emotional well-being. And we are doing the best we can to do that. That is our priority, and we will continue to do that. We just ask, I say we, and I'm asking to just please continue to communicate with us and be patient with us, and understanding that we do have your students and the teachers and the parents as well, and all the other staff as well, well-being in mind. So with that, all that said, the plan that is here tonight, I think, is a very good plan. I think the teachers have put this together per their grade, and they know what is going to work for those students. We trust them every day to drop off our kids. And I say ours because, yeah, my sons are older, but I experienced that and at these schools. So some of the teachers I know very well. But anyway, we trust the teachers with our kids all day long throughout the week. So we need to trust them now. And we need to trust, which I do, that they know what's best and they will accommodate the students as they need to. Things are going to come up that they don't expect, and things are going to come up that parents aren't going to expect, and we're going to go with it, and we're going to figure it out when we need to. And I think the plan that they have is going to be great. So I know that was long-winded, but that is my my feeling about these plans that are presented tonight, and I support them fully. And that's what I had to say. Christy, your turn.
I don't think I need to follow up with much, Ms. Crandall. I think you summed things up quite nicely with a historical perspective. I feel a little bit like we're at the edge or the high dive, and it's time to jump in. And we're going to hit the water, and it's going to be okay. And I think the same thing you're saying. It's uncharted territory, but we have consummate faith in staff and the district office, the parents who have come to so many meetings, and those of you who have kids in 1, 2, or 3 sites. It's been very, I think it's highly stressful. So huge thank yous to everybody. And I think this is where we move forward with confidence and know that we will make it work. So that's what I would add.
Thank you, Christy. Do you have So are you supporting the plans?
Absolutely, please,
Okay.
yes, definitely.
Okay, great, thank you. John Path,
I cannot add to what you said either, and I do appreciate the timeline.
John, you're like muffled. There you go.
Oh,
We see you
yeah,
better.
sorry about that. I got up and I'm holding my phone now. So I don't really have much to add to what you said. I do appreciate that timeline and really putting that out, that these changes were made day to day, that we approved something on a Tuesday and then on a Thursday, we were told, hey, you can't do that anymore. The one caveat I have on this plan is whatever day the high school, middle school, and elementary schools decide is planning is got to be consistent. So right now, unless the other two schools say, well, we can work with Friday, I believe I need to, say, hey, we really need to be on board with the same day across. It might be a foolish consistency, but I believe that the interaction between older students and younger students pretty much necessitates that constraint. But other than that, I'm very happy with what's been presented, and I thank everyone involved.
Great. Thank you, John. Brian?
A couple of things, but I'm mostly echoing what's already been said. As far as the planning day, I do think that seems to be a fairly easy ask, that we get that unified. I would like to see that. I'm overall supportive of the plan that's been presented. And then just echoing what you had said, Debbie, I was going to go along the same path. In my years on the board, what I've noticed, whether it's the board or administration or the teachers, everybody involved with teaching in this community and the district, they've always shown a great ability to be adaptable. And we're fortunate that we're a small district and that we can, we're not having to turn an ocean liner. We're more like a little speedboat out there. And I think that we can, as things come up, again, I've seen it happen time and time again in this district, they get addressed, they've been addressed quickly, and we've been able to get things taken care of. So I know that it's not what everybody wants to a T, but it's a start. And, I think this bicycle will ride, and it might be a little wobbly here and there and around this corner, but by and large, I think we're going to be okay. And where we're not, we're going to get it fixed. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, John Walton?
Yeah, I'm happy to support the plan. I wish we had the luxury of more time, but time is short, and I think it's important to create a plan so that the teachers and the administration and the parents can put their own plans in place in the coming weeks. I would just continue to ask that we keep an open mind and be flexible. I think there's a lot of unknowns we're still going to need to address. And keep our ears open to what the parents are saying and the teachers are saying, so that as time goes on, we continue to adjust to make things better.
Great. And do you agree on the Monday?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we normally would vote at this point. I want just to give a quick opportunity to any teachers that might want to talk. If you do, you can raise your hand. And if there's any other questions or comments, I'm happy to take like another 5 minutes or so of questions if there are any. Just want to give you one last chance there. I appreciate
President Crandall, if
Yes.
I could point out, with
Go
an
ahead.
earlier question, I checked both Robert Down and Forest Grove's websites, and underneath the parent menu at the bottom, there are supply list links.
Oh, great. That's at the individual sites.
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay, we have Nicole Bullich.
Hi, this is Nicole Bulich. I'm a teacher at the high school, and I have 2 students at Forest Grove. And I just appreciate the board's support in having the consistency of the asynchronous days, so that those of us who are both teaching our students and teaching our own children we'll be able to navigate that a little bit easier. I prefer the Monday, but again, I'm happy to go with whatever day works best for the district collectively. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Katie Selfridge.
Hi, thanks so much. So again, I'm a parent in the district. I don't have an elementary schooler anymore, but I'm still involved in the district, and I'm a teacher at the high school. And I want to echo Nicole's point that we generally do prefer the Monday as the asynchronous learning day. And I want to emphasize that it's not a planning day, it's an asynchronous learning day. So we are still going to be interacting with the kids on that day. We just don't necessarily have to be face to face. So we will still be there for the kids. We will still be planning meetings and things of that sort. So it's not a planning day per se. It's that asynchronous learning is important for us to still be able to communicate and catch up with the kids and things of that sort. So anyway, that was just my comment. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pause for a second. Just making sure. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and bring it back to the board. And I am going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the plans for Robert Down and Forest Grove as presented with the Monday asynchronous day.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Debbie Crandall and second by John Paff. A roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall?
Aye.
Trustee Dawson?
Aye.
Trustee Paff?
Aye.
Trustee Swanson?
Aye.
Trustee Walton?
Aye.
Thank you. That passes 5-0. Okay, well, thank you both, Principal Keller and Rogaman and all the staff that worked on those plans and presenting it not only Tuesday, tonight as well. So we may be having another special meeting before school starts, depending on if there's any other items that need to be approved before the school starts. So keep an eye out for that if we do. Otherwise, our next meeting is August 20th. So we'll be at school in, well, not at school, but we'll have started and have a little bit of feedback to discuss on the 20th. And just as I said earlier, just thank you for, your participation in all of our meetings and the feedback and the, comments, either if you liked it or not. And I'm glad we hear both sides. And we're going to keep working on this to do the best, where it's not just okay, we approved it and we're done. We're constantly in contact with each other. So we will be working on that and communicate. Dr. Porras said that there's going to be a frequently asked questions document, and then we'll continue to get weekly emails as well. And I think I've talked enough. Okay, so thank you all, and take care. Be safe. Wear your mask. Wear your mask. And get some rest so we can come back to school. And thanks again, everyone. And a meeting is adjourned. And thank you, Dr. Porras.
Thank you, Madam President, for everything. The whole board. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Take care, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.